Hey, gang. Welcome back to another episode of Try Not to Curse. And I hope you all had a happy Thanksgiving. Uh, I'm telling you, leading up to Thanksgiving, like I'm not a big leftovers person, but I kept seeing all these recipes of like those like Thanksgiving leftover sandwiches, and ooh, I have been in the mood. So thankfully it has come and gone. I got my fill. Uh, I am recording from home again, gang. So if I have to yell at my cats, I apologize in advance. I did bring the squirt bottle with me this time around, so hopefully I won't have to stop in the middle of my interview. Today, I'm talking to my girl Katie. You might know her as Stacy's wife. For those of you who remember chatting with Stacy, she has a law background. She is currently working in the insurance field. So we're going to talk about all those exciting things. But again, as I mentioned to you, Katie, we got to start off by talking about Taylor Swift.
Yeah, we do.
Now, so y'all saw her in concert. It wasn't the last concert she did over in California, was it? Okay.
No, I don't think so. I think she was up here first and then went to LA.
Right. Okay. Yes. Because that's what her movie is. Her movie was the last concert at SoFi in LA.
Yep.
And you guys went and saw the movie too, right?
No.
Oh, you didn't. Okay. Well, then here, you can help me out since you saw it live in person. Explain to my mother that those costume changes were as quick as they looked in the film, because my mom is like convinced that the movie was like heavily edited, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure she's not like taking breaks and leaving the audience hanging.
No, it was as quick as like the transition between a song, like the instrumental, she would change and come back. Yeah.
Thank you, Joanne. Okay. Thank you. Because she was like, you couldn't tell her otherwise. I said, no, I don't think they edited like at all, really. Just they put in a couple, like when she went from one album to the next, they did put in like a couple like special effects, kind of like graphics to emphasize that it was like an album change. But man, and I mentioned this with Abby. I talked to so many celebrities at Comic-Con about Taylor Swift because I happened to have my manicure was done. I did like a combination like Halloween / Taylor Swift concert manicure because it was all happening in the same week. And so every time somebody complimented my nails, I explained to them that's what this manicure was. And they're like, oh my, isn't she incredible? And she's just a boss and she is taking over. And that it was just it's so funny how she has like captivated the entire world this past year. Yeah, it's like she's been around. She's her career is over a decade long, and but for some reason, like this is Taylor's year.
17 years.
It's wild. It really is wild. And I mean, I've always been a fan, but I've never been like I never would call myself a Swiftie or a super fan. But like, and I'm totally shipping this relationship with Travis and. I'm here for it. But I do keep saying to people, I'm like, the only person that's going to screw this up is Taylor. I feel like I just feel like she gets really close to marriage. And then I think her concern is like, she doesn't want to give up any of her power, which I also totally get. So I think that's what she kind of like backs off when things are getting, to like, what would you call the finish line or whatever. But also, and not to go on a total tangent, guys, but this is the first time that I feel like we've seen a boyfriend of hers like really root for her and like promote her and support her. And like he's totally fine sharing the spotlight. He has no problem letting her, just shine. So here's hoping good things. He seems like a good guy. I'm obsessed with his brother, and his whole family just seems awesome. So
I don't think it's like the marriage thing. I think it's more that she recognizes her value and her worth, and everyone, in my opinion, that she's dated until this point, it hasn't really measured up to her because she does have this. She has it, whatever it is. She has it. She has it in spades, and she owns it. And I think she hasn't found someone that's equal to the task and willing to hold her up for who she truly is and what she deserves. Hopefully Travis is that guy. We'll see. But, whoever it is, I'm glad that she hasn't settled because that's what society thinks she should do. She is absolutely harnessing her female power and running with it. And I love it. I'm here for it.
100%. And also like, it'll be interesting to see if it does go all the way to marriage or whatever, I'm like, one of those days it's going to happen. She's going to end up with someone. She's going to get married. She's going to have kids. So it'll be interesting to see like what she writes about then and where her, her perspective changing. So that'll be really cool. I'm just all for it. I really am. And as you know, I'm going to see her in Australia. So
that'll be amazing.
Well, and the crazy thing is at the end of February, I was just at physical therapy today and I was just talking to my therapist about it. And I said, it'll be the end of February. So the Super Bowl will have been and gone.
Yep.
So I'm kind of hoping that Travis Kelce will be there. That would be kind of neat.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. I don't know. But anyway, hi. So you guys, Katie and I have known each other since the first grade. You're one of my oldest friendships. You are out in California now, but you've lived in Tennessee. You've lived in Pennsylvania. You've lived in where else?
Ohio.
In Ohio. Okay.
Yep.
And now we're in California. So it's your jobs. Your jobs have taken you all over the country.
Yeah.
So what is your law degree in?
So it's just a general JD. It's the Juris Doctor. I focused on like business and international law. I got my degree though. I really had no intention on practicing. It was more, I fell into insurance out of college. It was, oh shit, you just graduated. You need to get a job and bartending isn't cutting it. Because I did waitressed and bartended throughout college. And I saw an ad for an entry-level farmers insurance adjuster job. And so I applied and got it. And that sort of started my insurance career. And probably like 5 years into that, I was like, hey, a lot of glass ceilings here. And I was going to go back for either a master's or a JD. And I thought a JD would make me a little more marketable.
Okay.
So
that's a lot of work though.
It was a massive. So I, not only did I go to law school, I still worked full time during the day for farmers and went to school at night. Finished the 4-year program in 3.5 because I wanted to get the hell out of there. It's every sense of sanity that I had. But I made it through. My poor roommate, thankfully for her, like she helped me through a lot of it. But and then I graduated. I probably like, I don't know, within that year, I took that job in Ohio with State Auto as like a claims manager. So I had done mostly like, I started entry level and then started working up through handling like litigation, large loss, personal injury claims. And then, I took a job as a claims manager in Columbus, Ohio, managing litigation and large loss. So like all the catastrophic stuff you see, and then anything in litigation, and all of my whole team oversaw that. Then I transitioned over into Lyft, and that's where I sort of got into InsurTech. And I've been in that space ever since. At Lyft, I sort of got a taste for risk. And because I mean, you see everything on the news and everything that could possibly happen on that platform. And so I sort of got a flavor for all the things that could happen. And then I've sort of been in risk manager role since, and I'm now the EVP of risk for another, not really tech, but it is startup and very exciting. So, and I just started 6 weeks ago, so I'm getting my feet wet.
Yeah, and you've been traveling a lot too, I know. So that's awesome.
I'll be in New York next week.
So, and I think I asked Stacey the same question. So when you're handling these insurance claims and stuff, how much fraud did you see? Was it just a couple things here or there, or were you kind of like, what the hell? Like, is everyone bullshit? Like, is everyone trying to get a check?
Rampant. It is
really,
it's boy. Everywhere. It's from the, like, you can see it in the people treating longer than they should. That's still insurance fraud, to the straight up, you weren't injured, but you found an attorney and that attorney said, oh, look, you need to have A, B, and C done, and sent them to their own doctors and the claim. Yeah. I've seen the gamut, and the current procedure du jour is electrical spinal cord stimulators. Yeah. It sounds nightmarish, but there's a lot of sorry, my dog just walked in and he's
no, that's okay.
Cause a purpose. But these attorneys will get their client set up, and they go to, you can chart it. They go to a chiropractor, and then they go to an ortho, and that ortho's like, oh, you need an MRI, and the MRI doesn't work, or, the MRI could show nothing, but the orthos then is like, you need, what do you call them? ESIs. They're like the steroid injections into your spot. So you need a series of 3 of those. And when those don't work, oh, let's try the spinal cord stimulator. And juries are terrified hearing something like that. And so those claims are going for multi-millions of dollars, even though they like pathologically, is that the right word? Like in their MRI reports, there's nothing there to support the need for something like that.
That would indicate, yeah.
Yeah. So
is that a major surgery, or is that just some kind of like almost like a TENS unit where it's just applied to the back with like a sticker? And
no, it is invasive. They open the back, and then they place those. It's a TENS unit for the spine, but it's actually on the spinal cord.
So these are the doctors committing this insurance fraud.
It's a business.
Fuck a doc. That's awful.
Yeah. That
is awful. It makes me think of that whole Elizabeth Holmes bullshit, where, everybody, and now I know someone who personally knows her and had met her after everything was all said and done, while she was in the process of getting convicted and the trial and all of that. And they were kind of like, well, she had a good idea. It's like, listen, you can have great ideas, but when you're telling my grandmother that she has cancer when she doesn't, and when you're telling people they have these awful diseases that they need to get on medication for immediately, and you're fucking up people's lives, emotional, mental, physical well-being with your bullshit, that's where I have a problem. Like, sorry, I don't give a shit how well-intentioned you are. At the end of the day, you don't be bringing that shit out into the public and affecting other people like that. That's really scary.
Yeah. And again, like to investors, she's making billions of dollars out of to invest in this technology that she just doesn't have.
Yeah. And you know what? And I would have, and I said this to my friend too, I said, I would have had no problem with her if she kept saying if she was just being honest and she kept saying to the investors, hey, the technology's not there yet. We're working on it. We're doing the best that we can, but don't give us a fucking end date. Don't give us a rollout. And that's where she fucked up.
Yeah.
But and this is again, guys, why I always say, be an advocate for yourself, get a second opinion, because to hear something like that your doctor could I mean, and we talked about this with Crystal with her surrogacy, how now more and more doctors are telling women they need C-sections when in fact they fucking don't. That's fucked to me. Like you are putting somebody in harm and with the expectation that you're addressing an issue that is not there. And that's really fucking horrible. That's awful. So what do you guys do in those situations? Do you, look at, grab the MRI and say, well, we're going to get our expert in here? And, how do you handle stuff like that?
We do. And it becomes a battle of the experts. And depending on how good they are, how good theirs is, how good yours is, it usually lands somewhere in the middle. But I have nuclear verdicts are really, really becoming a thing. And to give you an example, there was a case out of Florida and and I probably am messing up some of the facts, but this is the general idea of what happened. You can Google it. You can look it up on Google, but this 18-wheeler was traveling. He was either on his phone or sleepy or something. And he ended up rolling the tractor trailer and traffic backed up behind him. And it was something like an hour and a half later, this 21-year-old kid in like a Toyota Camry had stopped. And behind him comes another 18-wheeler that was on his phone, sleeping, distracted something, and plowed into him and killed him. The jury returned a verdict, and you'll just guess what you think that is. 21-year-old kid, well liked, was in college, was set to do great things. And all those things you take into consideration when you look at a claim. What's the potential career path? All the earning capacity, all of that is taken into consideration. What do you think that the jury awarded that family?
Well, so I'm going to give you a range of answers because I understand how different states are and how the legal system's extremely fucked. So on the one hand, I'm going to say that the jury just said, oh, shit happens. It's just, circumstances, whatever. I can also see the way the law works, them blaming the first driver that rolled over his vehicle. Had he not got into that accident, this wouldn't have happened. I've absolutely heard of cases like that where they place blame on somebody else that's somewhat unrelated to the actual incident. But I would imagine the jury didn't give them a whole lot. I mean, you tell me, but unfortunately it doesn't, from the way you're explaining it, it doesn't sound like it ended happily. I mean, not that it would have for the family. They're never going to get that family member back, but yeah, what happened there?
So the jury found both trucks liable. I think it was a 60-40 split, and awarded the family of that kid $1 billion.
Holy fuck. Wow. Okay. So not so sort of what I was thinking, but also not in now. So, okay. So the drivers obviously weren't on the hook for that, but their companies were on the hook for that.
Technically, right? I don't know the specifics, and that really hasn't been published. But yes, both the companies, the insurance companies, on the hook for it because they failed to settle within the policy limits prior to trial. So yeah, everyone's on the hook, and I'd imagine companies are going to go bankrupt. And I don't know if they've appealed it. I haven't looked into that any further. But yeah, if they have to actually pay that $1 billion, it's their companies are going to go bankrupt. Maybe even the insurance company. So
well. So I've been through jury selection 3 times. I've never been chosen. I keep referencing TV shows and movies. So I think that's part of the reason they don't take me. I shit you not. And I don't do it like on purpose. Like I do it to try and like make a point about, whatever question they're asking me. And it always goes wrong. But for one particular case, someone had gotten into a car accident and like broken their thumb. They needed some kind of surgery on their thumb, and they were out of work for an extended period of time because of this injury. And the prosecutor, I think it's the prosecutor. He's the defense then, I guess, because he's not with whoever's not with that client. The person opposed would be
the defense, right? Yeah, the insurance company.
So the defending lawyer had said to me, so this is the situation. They make, say $25,000 a year at their job. If all of a sudden they can't work anymore, do you believe, given the nature of the injury, the nature of the accident, it was so minor, it's such a minor thing. Do you believe that this person should be awarded $1 million? And I said, well, I mean, I don't know them personally. I don't know the hardships that they're enduring because of this injury, because of being out of work. I was like, it's your job to convince the jury or the judge, that X amount of dollars is merited and warranted. And he didn't like that answer at all. He looked at me like, well, you're a fucking asshole. Like, of course they don't need $1 million for a broken thumb, whatever. But listen, I can't speak for somebody else's circumstance. Now, of course, granted, $1 billion is extreme, but at the same time, you lost a family member. You're never getting them back. You don't know what the future held for them. I mean, my mom talks about it all the time when people bring up the abortion issue, not to get like really hot buttoned, but people are always like, well, that child could have cured cancer. And my mom likes to say, yes, and that child could also be the next Hitler. You can't know. Yeah. You cannot put expectations on what ifs and all that, But like you said, that kid had a bright future, was doing really well in life. So yeah, it could have been the next Nobel laureate. It could have, same thing. They could have cured cancer. They could have been Theranos, but successful. I mean, it's absolutely true. But again, being raised the way that I was, I don't think my mom would feel good taking $1 billion. Even my mom would say $1 billion's a little, like, yeah, we loved her, but $1 billion, I don't, I don't know. But so yeah, that is really tough. And I could understand why companies fight so hard to a certain extent if you don't have that money. But I always tell producer Mike when he gets a corporate gig, like, I hope you're asking for a lot because those fuckers have it. You know what I mean? So you can't really go by me either.
It's a double-edged sword because yes, the kids' claim is worth a lot, but count on your hand the number of billionaires there are in the world, and then figure out what are the odds that kid is actually going to be a billionaire. And then the flip side of that, and I always get annoyed with people who are like, yeah, my insurance company's raising my rates and they're screwing me. No, they're not. They're trying to make losses. So, and that includes legitimate claims that they pay out and all the fraud that they're on the hook for because the government doesn't regulate it well enough. And there's we operate in a very small space of things that we can do to actually combat it. It goes back to your question earlier. We end up paying a lot of money on those because we don't have a choice. And, everyone's up in arms that their rates are going up. And it's like, well, we're paying it too. And I mean, it's people like to see the insurance company has deep pockets and yada, yada. No, they don't. Look at their profit margins. I mean, they're making money, but they're not making money hand over fist. It's
interesting. Yeah. Well, and that's funny because Dr. Miles said in my first episode with him that he was like, oh, you should be getting stock in insurance companies because of just that, he's like, look at them. They're constantly, making money and they're, raising the rates and they're always going to be in business. But you're saying it's not that simple.
No, the profit margin so especially on personal lines auto is very small, if existing at all. Where insurance companies tend to make money is on property insurance. So like your homeowner's insurance. They tend to make money on those because
which is funny because they charge like nothing. Like my homeowner,
because the loss ratio is a lot less unless you're in like hurricane area or major weather disasters, and then the rates are a lot higher. Florida's probably paying 4 or 5 times what you are, but for the most part, you're like in your lifetime, you are likely, knocking on wood, not going to have a claim. And if you do, it's not going to be substantial. And that's where they make their money. But on auto, like I said, most of the time they lose money. It's a very it's like if it's called the combined loss ratio. It's for every dollar you make, how much do you spend? And if they are profitable, they spend 96 cents, between 96 and 98 cents per dollar.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just to give you that's about normal. Some companies do a little better. Sometimes they're at 94 or 95%. Rarely, every once in a while they'll have a good quarter or a good year and be below that, but it's rare. They're usually hovering right under that dollar mark. Most of the time they're over. And I've seen it as high as $1.21 or $1.30 for every dollar they take in. They're losing money.
Well, and I'm just thinking, I'm going over about it and I'm like, you know what? I think I've had to make 3 or 4 auto insurance claims, whereas homeowners, I think I've had like 1 incident, and same thing. It was minor. It certainly, I certainly didn't have to move or anything like that, but I have had to total vehicles, and I have had, a kid just scraped my car. The most recent thing I had, a kid scraped my car. They gave me a check for $3,300.
Yep.
Which I'm like, I'm pretty sure I could buff that out. Like, what the fuck? Like, I thought they were going to tell me like, here's 50 cents. Like, but it's pretty
insurance companies get a bad rap. For the most part, it's people like you and me that are just trying to do our job and get home.
Yeah.
No one's trying to screw someone out of $1,000 because they don't want to pay for your car. That's not how any of this works.
Yeah. Unless you're a really shady character. And as I think I mentioned this with Stacy too, is I do know someone who, was on the side of the road. His Aztec was on fire, and insurance was like, well, the fuel line looks a little suspicious.
Shady looking fire.
It looks like there was a really nice, just really interesting cut on that fuel line. So it happens. It's out there, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just too trusting to the idea that a doctor would purposely put somebody into a situation like that makes my skin crawl. That's just horrible. That's awful.
And you can Google, just Google medical fraud, and you'll see articles slashed everywhere. There's, they busted a ring in Los Angeles a couple of years ago, and it was orthos and chiropractors and body shops and attorneys. And it was just this giant ring of providers working together, and the amount that they recovered just in medical expenses, not even taking into consideration what their clients got, just in medical expenses alone that were unnecessary. We were in the tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars.
And I keep saying now that like all this quote unquote weight loss medication and shit. And again, I feel like an asshole talking about it since I had the bariatric surgery. Like now I feel like people are like, hear what I have to say. And they're like, oh, you're on your high horse because you did it this way, whatever. Like, no, I would feel this way regardless. But I feel like now the whole weight loss craze is like the new opiate thing. Whereas, before doctors were writing prescriptions for opiates left, right, and center, and they were getting all these incentives from the companies. I feel the same way now about Moderno and Ozempic and all that other bullshit. Like I can't help but because I know people, I personally know people who have been given these prescriptions and they don't have diabetes. They're not pre-diabetic. They don't have what these things were actually created for and made and produced for. And it just seems so fucking shady to me. And it drives me nuts.
Let me play devil's advocate though. Okay. So say
Please.
Someone's overweight, but they're not diabetic and but they're pre-diabetic and they are overweight. And the statistics show that the more overweight you are, the more problems you're going to have. You're going to have more heart problems.
100%.
So what if the doctors are saying, okay, there's this drug out here. It's a side effect no one counted on, but it is in fact a side effect that's beneficial. Why don't I get them on the cure before I have to get them on other maintenance medication, before they're before they're on blood pressure, before they have a heart attack?
Because here's the thing. If you look at all of the research that has come out since all of this shit has really taken off, you only lose 20% of your overall BMI, period, no more than that. And the moment you get off of it, not only do you gain the weight back, you probably gain even more because unlike my listen, there are a lot of failures with people who have had bariatric surgery as well, because they just simply don't follow the plan. But the difference between the bariatric surgery and this Ozempic Moderno shit is they're not putting those patients through and giving them the right information prior to starting them on the meds. So for me, it was, I have to do a certain diet prior to the surgery. I have to meet with a therapist. I have to meet with a dietitian. I have to understand exactly what my body is going to go through and what kind of experience I'll have if I fall off the meal plan and if I go back to my old shitty habits. I mean, there are people, I can't drink soda for the next year. I can't drink alcohol for the next year. There are people who had bariatric surgery and the next week we're back at McDonald's. So it is absolutely, people need to be doing the right things. But the problem that I am seeing, again, from the people I know, the things I've been reading, the doctors are not preparing any of these patients for, you have to make sure even though you're not hungry at all, you have absolutely no appetite, you still do need to drink water constantly. You still need to, yes, you can have smaller meals because yes, you're not hungry, but you do need to eat, you need to consume. And that's just not happening. These people are just treating this as like a get out of jail free card, and they're passing out because they're not keeping up with their nutrition. They're having all kinds of bowel problems because they're not drinking water like they should be. I mean, it's a different, if they were being treated the same way and they were being prepared and they were having those conversations with the physicians, it would be one thing. But like I said, the fact that a physician is just simply looking at you and going, oh, you're overweight and you want to do something about it, here's a prescription, go ahead, get your injection. That I really can't help but, and again, long term, like I said, you're injecting yourself with something that is not intended for you. So long term, and like I said, the articles are coming out now. There's a woman in one of the Carolinas. She's losing her teeth and it's completely fucked up her organs, and she's having all kinds of issues. So I feel like more and more of those stories are going to end up coming out, because it's just like I said, like you're prescribing something for people who don't have the real affliction behind that medication. But again, I've said all this before. I'm not trying to harp on it. It's just, to me, I hear that and I just, same thing. Like I said, to me, it's like the next opioid thing, because this is the latest craze, and this is it's a big cash grab. And now, insurance is covering it. So I can't help but feel like more prescriptions are being written than should be. You know what I mean?
Do you feel that way about other medications that are used off label? So like, I want to say it's like Wellbutrin or something is used to quit smoking. There's one that was made for something else and is now used for quitting smoking. Or
yeah.
Like Viagra was created out of a like heart medication, like all of this. So does that translate to all these other medications that are being used off label?
I mean, I do kind of feel that way too. Cause like I said, for me, it's more about in the long term. If this was created for one specific thing, and sure, you know, if we've got beneficial side effects, that's lovely. However, we're not going to know 10, 20 years down the line how that's potentially endangered somebody or altered something in their system. So I'm a little leery. But again, it's also because I don't know about all of those other things. Like I didn't know that about Wellbutrin. I did hear that about Viagra, but don't even get me started. I think it's bullshit that insurance covers that and not birth control. Like, like fuck right off with that shit. But yeah, I just think it's kind of, it makes me a little concerned. It's a little sketchy in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, and it's going to be hard,
but I'm also not a doctor. So
it's going to be hard to measure those consequences too, because how many people haven't gone on them or have gone on them and went off of them that end up dying because of a weight related illness that wouldn't have if they had stayed on it, or like it's hard to know the unknown. So,
but again, I also feel like if somebody's that far off, you know, like I was myself, not that thankfully I wasn't pre-diabetic. On paper, I look fucking beautiful. I look great. All of my numbers have always been really, really good. But I'm obese. I am obese. And I was starting to have muscular and joint and nerve issues. So I just feel like doctors are just kind of going the easy route and saying, like, you know, rather than make you go through this medical procedure, like, let's have you do this, especially with people that they figure probably won't change their lifestyle. So, okay, like pumping them full of something just for them to lose 20% of their overall BMI and also not in any way change their lifestyle. I feel like it's counterproductive. It doesn't help. Again, I know somebody who's on it, and it hasn't, they're still eating ice cream. They're still, you know what I mean? Like they're not making healthy choices. And then they flat out told their doctor, like, I don't give a shit. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to change anything. And their doctor was like, okay, I'll still write this prescription for you. Like that's a problem for me, you know?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. Again, I'm not trying to act, you know, superior because I went one route and not the other. Quite frankly, I could have been dieting and exercising this whole fucking time too. You know what I mean? Like there are alternate things I could have done, and this is just what I chose for myself. So I'm not trying to call anybody an asshole, but I feel like these doctors are just, you know what I mean? Like it's a little disconcerting. That's all.
It's a very broken system. That's for sure.
Well, and again, as I was explaining to Dr. Miles and Dr. Al, like it's really hard when there are experts that have varying opinions, you know, because then it's like, well, fuck, like no wonder people have trust issues. You know, like you have the same degree as that guy and you're saying two completely different things. What the fuck am I supposed to do with that?
So, I think that's what's like created a lot of the misinformation around the COVID vaccine.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot less experts that were saying the bullshit that was being sprouted, but enough with credentials behind their names to have people go, well, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. And the rest of them are all in it to make money. Like there's a lot of finger pointing going on across the board.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, man. I'll tell you what, but I also didn't realize that you can just get, not to make it sound less than it is, but like just like a general law degree. So how does that work? Like if you want to like put it in action, like if I came to you and I said, hey, I've got this going on, can you represent me? Like what is there a line? Like you could do this kind of case, but you couldn't do like, say like a criminal case or does you pick whatever you want to do? I don't know.
Yeah, you pick whatever you want to do once you graduate and start working for firms or so like I do a lot of contract law. That's where like because I've done general counsel work and stuff like that. And so I'm good with contracts, but if someone comes to me with like a family law question or problem, my first response is, I am not a lawyer in this capacity, and I'm going to tell you to get a lawyer that can properly represent you. Here is my advice on what to do until you can talk to someone. But I cannot advise you in a legal capacity on this because I don't have the background for it.
Okay.
And I get questions a lot like, hey, I need your legal advice on this. I'm going to say, I'm going to give you some friendly advice, but if you want legal advice, you're going to have to get an attorney that practices in this field. Here's what I know based on my experience. Because it's friendly advice. It's not legal advice. And there's a difference.
Sure. Okay. Well, if anything ever happens with this podcast, I'm coming to you for contract law, though. That's awesome.
Yeah. But like I have friends that are prosecutors. I have friends that are defense attorneys. I've got, friends that work in corporate employment law, like all that, just when you graduate, you pick a different thing. I have friends that are not practicing at all. They're in project management for tech companies. And, it's across the board.
Yeah. My cousin Andrea is a vet tech, but she has her law degree as well in animal advocacy. So it's the same thing. Like I have gone to her asking her opinion, but she's like, I deal with animals and animal rights. Like I can't help you with your housing situation. But same thing. She's like, I can tell you what I think you might need to, what avenue to go down, but I definitely can't represent you in that kind of capacity.
It's similar to doctors. Doctors do much more schoolwork. I'm not comparing, they're not apples and apples, but
sure.
They graduate and they can all go into residency and practice general medicine, but they can specialize and do these other things. And it's kind of similar, and you can get board certified in different, and the same thing applies for being a lawyer. You can get certified and specialized in certain areas like family law or probate or anything like that. And really you have a niche and you specialize in that. And it's, doctors do the same thing. It's kind of similar.
How do you feel about Kim Kardashian?
So the bar is a great equalizer. I think, well, I have my own personal opinions on the Kardashians, but you know what? They made something out of nothing, and they have more power to them. But the fact that I think she's doing it the hard way, but she's doing it her way. So the bar is anonymous. Everyone sits in a room and you all take a version of the same test. They're all different, so you can't cheat.
Oh, real? Oh, I didn't know that.
And it's all graded. You have a number. You are just a number. So if she was tested that way, and I would assume she has to be because the bar doesn't make exceptions for stuff like that.
Yeah, she said that she was.
That she sat and took and passed. Only a baby bar. She hasn't passed the actual bar yet, but hey, that's something. And it's a lot of freaking work. So, and she said no one's feeding it to her. She is putting in the work. So I'll give her credit for that. And the fact that her and her family built this empire out of nothing, more power to them. You know what? Everyone's got to find something, and it worked for them.
It did. Exactly. So I have to share this. I've actually wanted to mention this on the podcast because it's been something that's been on my mind for a really, really long time. And I have to share this with you because I don't know. When's the next time you're coming home, do you think?
So I'm going to be in New York next week, but in terms of like actually coming into Connecticut, I don't know. We have our dog is sick, and so we don't travel very often. And certainly without him and getting to the East Coast is kind of a haul for both of us with him.
So I have to share this with you. For the past, I want to say 3 or 4 years now, Route 84, Highway 84 here in Connecticut has been terrorized by this law group called the Goff Law Firm. They have the worst billboards I've ever seen in my life. They are not relevant to the law. It pisses me right off every time I see a new one because they're so fucking stupid. They're so fucking dumb. Like I always want to write them like an angry letter, like fire your fucking marketing manager immediately. This is bullshit. So to give you an example, at one point it's this one the head of the firm that's on every billboard, and she has a shitty haircut and I can't stand it. But there's one, she was pregnant at one point. So her billboard was her with a baby bump, and it said eating for two while fighting for you. That was one of them. They just had a Halloween themed one that said, and it had a witch flying on a broom in front of a full moon. And it said car accident ? If the broom fits, fly it. What the actual fuck? Okay. And now they have a Thanksgiving one where she's holding this big, huge bowl of butternut squash and it says something like, "We'll squash your legal needs," or some. I want to blow my brains out every time I fucking see one of these billboards. And I'm saying all of this to now explain to you, this is an all-female law firm, which my best friend explained to me after being terrorized by these billboards for like 2 years. She then said, "Oh, did you know? Oh, it's an all-female." Hello, wouldn't that be what you how you advertise? Don't you think that's the thing you should fucking mention to people, not these dumbass sayings that don't even make sense and have nothing to do with what your firm takes care of? So I swear to God, I've wanted to like have a sit down with producer Mike about these billboards for months now, because they fucking drive me nuts. I'm going to have to take a picture of one and send it to you. But like, hello, like the headline here is, "We're an all-female law firm." Can you imagine the kind of business they would get? If that was the
not necessarily, because there is a whole, first of all, you're isolating 50% of the population. And there's also if the last 2 elections have taught you nothing, there's a whole lot of stupid people.
But my point is, I see the billboard and I immediately say, there's no fucking way I'll hire you with that stupid ass shit. That's the kind of decision you're going to make. And that's the kind of shit you're going to okay. Fuck to the no, do I think you're going to be able to fucking represent me? But again, if you had turned it around and you had said, "Oh, the only all-female run whatever in the tri-state," or some shit like that, then I might take you a little more seriously. Yeah. No, but you're right. It would also deter people because everybody's an asshole. What are you going to do?
And I can guarantee you they're placing billboards because they're looking to get mainly car accidents, I would assume.
Yeah, probably.
And someone's going to be like, "Oh, look, I can call that number. I was just in an accident." I mean, that's
not me.
I don't know what
they're at that billboard and say, "Oh, look, I hope the other person's represented by those jackasses," because fuck. It makes me so mad.
The really good personal injury attorneys don't advertise. They don't have to, because their work speaks for themselves. The advertising attorneys are the ones you, in general, want to stay away from.
I mean, I don't know, Trantolo and Trantolo, Get Carter, those are Connecticut tried and true. Those are staples.
Mm-hmm.
I think I only like them just because they've been around for so long. I bet you their billboards in the beginning were dumb as fuck too. But
what's that one that's like, "Dial 877 if you need cash now"?
Oh,
do you remember that from like?
Yeah. I've got an equity and I need cash.
I need cash now. Yeah. There was some attorney, but it's very effective. It's been 30 years and I still remember.
And in the past decade, they've switched to like an opera, like it's an opera now. So they have people dressed up with like the Viking hats and everything. Call 877 need cash. Yeah. They're the worst, but you're right. It's catchy. It's like the Empire carpet thing too. You know that commercial. 800-588-2300 Empire.
Yep.
Today. Yeah. You guys, sorry. If you're not from Connecticut, you don't have any idea what we're talking about. But now that's going to drive me nuts, that lending one. It's not the general. The general fucking sucks too. Jesus Christ.
I'm
going to have to, if I find it, I'm going to post the commercial on the Facebook site, because it's ridiculous. But
J.G. Wentworth.
Right. Called J.G. Wentworth. Yeah. Fuck, man. Sorry, again, if you're not from
You're welcome.
Yeah. Just wasted so much of your time. But man, oh man. But so how are things these days with insurance? I mean, again, you said you're in a new position, new job. It's been, but what's happening right now in the world that people either should be aware of, or like just, hey, this is a weird part of what I do.
So like I said, my focus has really shifted from insurance to risk, although I oversee insurance and claims in my capacity. It's not the same as working for an insurance company. The biggest thing is your rates are going up because people are committing fraud and they're not making any money. It's not because they're trying to screw you out of money. I can say that. And it'll be interesting to see, like, because even as everything evolves, fraud evolves, and insurance evolves. So, 10 years ago, EVs really weren't a thing, or they were just emerging. And now I can guarantee you they're going to be the main source of travel in the next 10 to 15 years in a lot of places. And so that completely changes the landscape for insurance.
Yeah.
It's different when you're paying for a car that the parts are widely available and it's relatively cheap to fix. And now you're looking at a $15,000 battery that's been damaged. So it's going to change the landscape for everything.
So I'll tell you, Mike Ron Steve, who's been on the show 4 times now. I promise you guys he won't be on until next year because but we've talked about his Polaris ad nauseum. One story that we did not share the last time he was on was apparently Polaris uses a soy-based plastic for their wire insulation, for their wire wrapping. And, because again, it's a fully electric. So they have all these bundles of cables and bundles of wires throughout. So one day, Mike Ron Steve's Polaris lit up like a Christmas tree. His dashboard had every type of warning that you could possibly have. And he went to the shop and said, what the fuck? And, can you run it? And can you figure it out? And they said, well, it looks like you've got some mouse damage because it's a plant-based plastic that apparently Polaris knows they uses, and the mice love it and we're chomping away at it. Even though everything's completely enclosed, apparently at the bottom of the enclosure for the car, there is like a 4-inch round hole, which the mechanic claims they need to to help cool off the engine or release pressure from the engine. And he's like, it's electric fucking car. There is no engine. Like, do you not get that? But regardless, well, Polaris didn't have the foresight to animals could get up in this hole.
Let me put some mesh over that.
100%. That's the first fucking thing I thought of too. So clearly they could do these things. So no, instead they leave it the way it is, and mechanics have to completely remove the bumper before they can access anything into the vehicle. So that right there is like a $600 decision just right there. And these bundles of cable cost anywhere from $300 to $3,000. So there's this little mouse nibbling. And so you've already got a bill because I have to first determine what bundles of cable have been affected, whatever. So, and these are things that people, again, and I share it just because, like you said, EVs are getting popular, but people don't know the dark side and the growing pains of this industry. Yeah. And he's having that problem right now. Like his insurance, Polaris doesn't want to do anything about it. And he's like, you guys did this. I didn't. You chose to use a plant-based plastic for, whatever good intention you had. You chose to not cover this hole that apparently is so necessary to the functioning of this vehicle, but nobody wants to take responsibility on their dumb decisions. So yeah, I just wanted to bring that up too, because
I will give the advice that I give anyone that wants to listen to me get on my insurance soapbox. The 3 things to tell people: always wear your seatbelt. I'm not kidding. The amount of fatalities I've seen because someone simply didn't put on a seatbelt is nauseating.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Never travel behind anything carrying anything. Log trucks, that's absolutely a thing.
Well,
they've got pipes.
Final Destination has taught us that.
It is absolutely true. So don't travel behind any trucks that are carrying anything. And if they can't see you, you can't see them. You are never going to win a war with a semi, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then never let anyone in your passenger seat put their feet on your dash.
100%. And I used to do that all the time as a kid.
Yep, me too.
Well, because, our parents' generation, they stuck their feet out the windows, that, nobody thought about it. And now, especially that everybody's got an airbag and the technology is what it is. Yeah, 100%.
Airbags deploy at 200 miles an hour, which means if you got your feet on the dash, they're going to send your legs into your hips at 200 miles an hour. The injuries are devastating. So for anyone listening, please, those 3 things, if I can give anyone advice, that's what I tell them.
I mean, it's traffic school 101, but yeah, it's you get comfortable, you get complacent, you think, well, I haven't had that yet happen, so it's probably not going to happen to me. You never know. You absolutely never know.
And people take really, really, especially if they've never been in an accident, really take for granted the fact that it happens in a millisecond before you even have time to react or understand what's happening. It's already over. It is. Yeah. It's that fast, and it can be life altering. So And don't text and drive, like all that stuff. Don't text and drive. And
I cannot tell you. And this is my number one rule. And my family knows this as well. I cannot tell you the amount of times that they know I'm in the car. They know I'm headed to them or on the road to them. I tell people all the time, fucking call me.
Yeah.
But I'm getting family sending me a text with a fucking question. And they're like, oh, well, how come? What do you mean? I'm driving.
Right.
I'm not. Call if you need an answer right now. Call. Nobody wants to be on the phone anymore. Well, guess what? I don't want to fucking die because you want to know my ETA. Like, sorry.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to wait for the response. I don't fuck around like that.
Good.
Yeah. No. It's 2023, people. We're getting into 24. Like, come on.
Yep.
Like, really. My cat is sitting on an end table looking like she's ready to fuck some shit up. So I'm just trying to keep an eye on her. Again, you guys, sorry about the last episode. Like I said, I've got the spray bottle on the table. We're ready to go if shit pops off with these cats, but tell you what. So when you were working for Lyft, so it was insurance claims with Lyft. That's what you were doing? Like you were just consulting. Like, what kind of claims did you see? I mean, not that we really should be blowing up Lyft's business or anything, but was it like, just drivers getting into accidents, or how? I don't understand how that falls under, in that business model.
So if you think about the way insurance works, and I have to get into complexities, Lyft and Uber are probably the two largest insurers in the United States because of the sheer number of vehicles they have on the road. And so my team oversaw sort of the large exposures that came through, and then like would help facilitate any or other types of exposures that came through. And that's the sort of stuff you see on the news. If we didn't have it, making sure the right team had it and stuff like that. So just keeping it high level, but we mainly oversaw all the large stuff. The claims were handled by like third parties. So.
Okay. I mean, it makes me think of like, same thing like with rental cars, like you can opt to use your insurance or you can, get ours or whatever. Have you ever had to deal with rental car shit like that? I mean, I'm assuming along the same lines. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of fraud with that or no?
No, not as much. The funniest one I saw, and no one get any ideas, was someone rented our car and then they swapped our tires out for theirs. And the car.
You know what though, you guys? That's not. But honestly, like rental cars, they don't maintain that shit. They don't put on the best.
They do better than you think.
Their tires. Okay.
They do better than you think because they're so there's something that protects rental car companies in the United States. It's called the Graves Amendment. And so technically you can't hold a rental car company liable for something past the state minimum. So it really because people were going after rental car companies left, right, and sideways if their driver didn't have insurance or whatever. And this really could put a kibosh on that. But there's a few ways around it. And one of them is gross negligence. So if you don't actually maintain your vehicle and you put someone in an unsafe car, your business is now exposed to claims above the state minimum or above the Graves Amendment because you failed to maintain the vehicle. So they're actually better maintained than you think.
So with that, since we're on this subject, I will let people know. I know folks that work for Amazon that are drivers for Amazon. Those are not Amazon vehicles. Amazon hires fleets. They hire garages. They essentially rent from those fleets to have them deliver, even though the truck is wrapped in an Amazon logo. Don't think that you're going to potentially get into a fender bender and get a big payday because that is not Amazon's property.
They've shielded themselves from liability by doing that.
100%. And I will say with those, they are not maintained. The tires are bald. The interior looks like absolute shit. The springs are popping out of the seats because they're always, aftermarket.
Out of the car.
Yeah. They just because it looks great on the outside, I'm telling you right now, I know personally from the people that I know that work for them, they are absolute pieces of shit. And these drivers put their lives on the line every time they get behind the wheel. But yeah, don't try it. Don't think you're getting a payday from Bezos. It's not happening.
Yeah, no.
Oh, it's wild. But a lot of fleet companies are like that though. right? They hire from like third parties and then just wrap their vehicles. That's what they do. A lot of these delivery type
Some
companies.
do. The delivery companies for the most part, well, not for the most part, but yeah, especially Amazon. Amazon's a big one, but yeah, or they rent from a fleet company, but they are the renter. So the way Amazon has it separated and the way they shield themselves from liability is they don't actually rent the vehicles. They contract with a company that rents vehicles or owns vehicles or whatever. And so they're shielded. They've sort of separated themselves off from liability because they hire a company or they work with a company that is responsible for the vehicles and maintenance and everything else. And so everything funnels up and it stops at that company. No one has yet to pierce that layer between them and Amazon.
Man, oh man.
Lawyers, man.
Shady shit these corporations do. I'll tell you what, there's a loophole for fucking everything. Wild. Well, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to share about your experiences? Any tips you have for people aside from what you've already given us, or just life advice in general? We could always use a little life advice. That's for sure.
I mean, don't take yourself too seriously and enjoy that work-life balance. Take your PTO. If you're take a sick day, take care of yourself, because at the end of the day, especially if you're, working, honestly, wherever you work, you're replaceable. It doesn't matter. Like 100%. There's very few people or things that are irreplaceable. And so make sure you take care of yourself too. It will actually make you a better worker and, and in my case, a better manager and everything else is if you actually take care of yourself, because you can take care and nurture others better. So that would be, I wish I had known that when I was younger. But
perfect. 100%. Yeah. I mean, well, and especially as Americans, as a society, we are trained to feel guilty for taking that time for ourselves. And it's same thing. It took me really not until the past couple of years when I had these medical issues, I was going out for it and all that kind of stuff. My therapist looked at me one day and said, none of your other coworkers seem to have a problem taking that time. Why? It's your time. It's a perk of your job. It's your benefit.
A benefit. Take it.
It's a benefit. Yeah. 100%. So now I max out all my vacation time and my PTO and my sick days, and I take all that time. So 100, absolutely great advice.
The only time I roll it, like next year, I'm going to be 40. So I anticipate a very large vacation celebration for my birthday. And so I'm going to roll it so I have a little extra time.
Same. I'm doing the same thing. And it just, again, I unfortunately was out for medical reasons 3 times this year. So I was barely in the building, just due to circumstance. And when I came back after having a, broken my ankle, they said, oh, well, you still have a week's worth of vacation. So we've got this window of time, you can take it then. I said, you guys, we've got a month and a half left of the year. Roll that bitch over. I'm like, I don't need any more time off. You don't need me to take any more time. Like, come on. So thankfully I have a nice bit of vacation time next year. And same thing, turning 40, doing the Australia once in a lifetime trip, taking full advantage of that time. So, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time and sitting down with me. I know you're super, super busy and again, all the traveling you've been doing lately. So I just want to thank you so much to just giving us a little insight to the ins and outs. And again, you guys, get a second opinion, be an advocate for yourself. Don't let doctors tell you that you need a surgery that turns out more than likely you probably don't need. Fuck, that's really scary. That's a really scary thought. So
same thing for dental work. If you go to a dentist and they tell you have 6 cavities and you've never had cavities in your life, give a second opinion.
Yeah. Excellent point. And definitely go to the dentist though, you guys. Like dental care is really
twice a year for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And this was Try Not to Curse. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.